when I hear about hustle and grind, I think there might be an occasion in your life where you will have to work extra hard or put in some extra effort with little return. And I think the analogy would be you might have to go out and cut down some trees and drag them back to your hut and light them before you get the heat from the fire. But if you cut down enough trees or you hire someone to go and cut them for you and you get them to stick them in your wood pile, and then eventually you can get your caretaker to stack the fire and light it for you, you could enjoy heat all year round without ever having to fell another tree. So you might have to do things in the beginning that you don't have to do in the end. So when I was in that crossover period, I was effectively working a full-time job as a general manager and trying to teach myself how to build a website online back in from 2005 to 2008, this period. And it was tough, and physically it was taking a toll. It was straining my relationship with my wife. It meant I didn't see my kids that much. I have 4 kids at this time, and I was physically starting to break down after 2.5 years of struggle. Eventually, I was able to meet my threshold, which was I wanted my online business to match my income. As soon as that happened, that was the trigger to leave the full-time job. And that was on the hypothesis, and that's all I had to go on, that I would be able to use some of that time, firstly to sleep and recover and get energized, but some of that time spent on my online business, I should be able to accelerate my online business faster. And that happened very quickly. Almost straight away, I got to $100,000 a month with my online business back in about July 2008. And it never stopped from then. It's been the most consistent business of anyone's business I've ever seen in terms of how stable and steady it is. And that's through tinkering with the strategy and the business model over many years and finding my core. But then the other things that happened were I went to a strategic coach conference and they were talking about buffer days. And at this stage, I was like most online entrepreneurs and, my business is open 24/7 and I was working every day of the week. And they said, why don't you just take Sundays off? And I'm like, well, I guess I could try. So I took Sunday off and then I took Saturday and Sunday off. And then with the encouragement of my wife, who really values my time more than anything else, her love language with me is time with me. It ended up being that I work 3 days a week and have 4 days off. And on those 3 days that I schedule calls, so I'm talking about scheduled calls, those 3 days I schedule calls, we get some overlap with childcare with my youngest daughter. And then the other 4 days, it's just family time. It's my wife, my daughter and I. All my other kids have grown up and they're out of home, which is great. And it's more important to me now that I cap my work week. I cap my work week at 15 hours. That's the limit. Whatever I have to do, like a great artist with constraints, like they're constrained by the canvas perhaps, I've got to fit what I do into 15 hours a week. And my game is how much leverage can I find? How much profit can I bring from my business by structuring it the right way and having the right customers on the right programs, the right partnerships, and doing the right activities to make that business flourish from 15 hours a week. And of course, I need to be able to surf every day. That's really the baseline. If I can't surf every day, then I've failed to design my life in a way that works for me.
That's incredible. And I know for a lot of people here, that really is the dream. That's the 4-hour work week. Well, 15, I think 4 was a little ambitious and just a great title.
15-hour work week. There's a trial in Australia at the moment. A lot of companies are trialing 4-day work weeks. And I do think I put a lot of thought to this. I studied people like Ricardo Semler. He's got 7-day weekend. I, of course, read Tim Ferriss's book. I still had a job and I had kids when I read it. So I was kind of saying, yeah, this is bullshit. Have some kids and come back and write a 4-hour work week, bro. It was like I had to dismiss some of it as being a bit silly. But one of the founders really since Pareto after that was Richard Koch of the 80-20 principle. And I really started thinking about that more and more and thinking, knowing that it was fractal, I realized that I could push that to 64-4. And this 64-4 concept has really guided a lot of the things that I do. And you can apply it to every aspect of your life. Once you do this, it just creates this open schedule. Like it's currently Wednesday as we record this, and I don't have a single thing scheduled until next Monday. And that's how my week works every single week. And I love that. And it's always been possible. When I contrast that with when I was a general manager working my online business at night, I was worlds apart. I was easily doing a 100-hour work week, but I was making a fraction of my income. So it is possible to find leverage. You just have to be aware of the concept and then go look for it.
That's fantastic. Now, you went through this period where you worked the hundreds of hours. Now you're at this point where it's the 15, and you talked about all these discoveries you've had in leverage. And I know in a previous conversation we've had, we talked a lot about the teams that you've built and the ways that you get these teams to work and take on these leveraged roles that can actually maximize your output in the process. Would you have some suggestion as to where should we start looking if we feel and hear what you just said and being like, no, everything I do, it has to have my touch into it. I don't think I could ever delegate that. And is it just a question of delegation?
It's not a question of just delegation. It's possibly a question of deletion. I mean, if you think about 64-4, 2/3 of the results you're getting are likely coming from 4% of your inputs. So if you were doing 100 things, you might be able to get rid of 96 of them off your to-do list to start with and just focus on 4 of them, and you'll still end up with 2/3 of the income you're getting now. That's mind-blowing, really. So I would propose that a lot of the things that you're doing now or that you think you need to do, that's probably even more important, you don't have to do. This is super controversial, but I don't have a to-do list. I don't have I'm not keeping a project management tool. I don't have a whiteboard even at the moment. Right? I don't need any of that anymore because I've found my 4% that gets me the 64% result. So first step is be aware of all the things that you're doing and be aware of all the things that you think you should be doing, and then put them through the ringer. What can you get rid of? Just delete. Once you're left with some things, then it's like, okay, try and score each thing by what the hourly rate would cost to hire someone to do it. And anything that's particularly low or very easy to hire for, you might want to start there with hiring people to help you. The sorts of things that are very easy to hire for that have a pretty low rate would be things like customer support, website stuff, content stuff, sending email type stuff. These things can be procured very easily in the digital world. But then, of course, look around the home. Maybe you could hire someone to mow your lawn. Maybe you could hire someone to prepare food. There's even things called restaurants. Like you could actually go to a place and they'll cook everything for you. So that can, put some of these things into your schedule. Think about what sort of services might lighten the load for you on the domestic front and the business front. And then hone in, like if you've already got a business and you've already got an offer and you've already got customers, it's much easier. Because what I do when I'm coaching people is, all right, okay, which are your best customers? Of the products you sell, which are the best products and which ones are costing you money to sell? Most people don't know these things until I ask them, and they have to go and look at it, and they come back and they say, wow, I've still all this time and effort and energy to sell a $49 product and it makes up a fraction of my income and it's all my service load. I'm like, hey, stop selling it. Just turn it off. It no longer exists. And then they're like, oh, but what about the people who can let someone else serve those people? How about you look after the people who want to spend $5,000 a month and just go and find 10 of them, and you've got a decent business. And then you can afford to hire a team to look after these people properly so that you're not maxed out and overloaded and stressed. So yes, there is an element of delegation, but to do that, you're going to have to be a good leader. So you might have to work up to that.